support, it's certainly something Ming's been happy to go towards. But when you look at Ming's champion pool, I mean, he's got 16 games on Nautilus and 4 on Leona as the next most popular champion. So I don't think he was looking at Leona. I think maybe EDG want to grab that Nautilus, though, in this rotation.
I 100% agree. Nautilus going towards the Aphelios is more than likely what we're going to see here for the bot lane for EDG. They're going to go towards the Hecarim first, the premier jungler on this patch. For RNG, I'm curious to see what the plan is, because what made them look so successful in game 1 against Weibo was actually the Hecarim and Zeri playing heavily down towards this bottom side. We saw Gala solo diving to get 2 kills underneath the Weibo turret. It was sick. But now we got to see if they can find that good matchup here for Wei. Still things like the Xin Zhao available if they want to go towards that. And we'll have to see what the support is going to be. Ming going back towards the Alistar that he's been well famous for across the years.
Yeah, it's not something he's played so far this split, but I'm still confident that he remembers how to play one of his signature champions. You know, it's one of those things where I'm just going to go on trust on that one. It's going to be a Gnar locked in here for Bin. So blind pick up in that top lane, despite not having a jungler locked in yet.
And I love this from RNG, because what you're basically doing is calling out EDG, saying, hey, you want that AD carry? Go for it. We're going to start banning away these top lane picks that are going to make your life a living hell for Xiaohu. And for RNG, it nearly feels like they're going, hey, look, we're going to make sure Bin has that solidified time in that top lane that he's going to be super good in. And we're going to then put our attention down towards Gala and Ming, that bot side. Something as well that works super well with a dive composition, which is what it feels like RNG are certainly setting up here for. But EDG going towards the Kaisa. So not opting towards the Aphelios that we expected, actually going to start looking for something that can have that shorter range, play to wave clear against the Zeri, and a lot of movement and freedom in these fights, and a ton of long range damage as well, if it is that Crown of the Shattered Queen build that we see an awful lot of the time.
Viego being banned away from Wei here, and this is the downside, right, of the strategy from RNG is it does mean that Jiejie can remove a couple of the junglers that he doesn't want to deal with as this Hecarim, but there will very likely be either Lee Sin or Xin Zhao still available by the end of the ban. So it feels like an aggressive option could be there for the side of RNG. But it will be a Kennen ban, as you mentioned, trying to remove some of these tougher top lane matchups so they're not.
I feel like for EDG, Jarvan ban is your best bet here, just because it kind of works alongside that dive. But one of the things that Hecarim is really bad at in the early stages is playing aggressive into the enemy side of the jungle. So oftentimes when we see this Hecarim come through, you're able to actually take a little bit more of a passive jungler on the opposite side. So maybe Wei is kind of looking, going, hey, look, I could go towards something like a, well, if you want to look at dive, Diana also still available if they want to try and go for some sort of AD mid for Xiaohu. You can go towards things like a Zac or a Sejuani. This is something that V5 are very good at doing. But I think with Jarvan still up and available, I really do feel like this strong early game jungler that can, you know, set up on this bottom side is going to do super well and facilitate the dive and the short range composition that RNG have.
Yeah, also something that can be super proactive. That's what we talked about with RNG. Wei was all over the map in their last series, and I want to see that again from him. But now over to EDG. They have to decide which solo lane they want to go for first. But with a Gnar on the other side already, I was going to say you'd expect it to be top, but they're actually hovering the Sylas. I might just go for a blind pick in the mid lane instead.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if they went for the blind pick. I think this is the better option here. With the Ahri band away, Vex is kind of the big wave clear that we see in the mid lane. So kind of keeping themselves safe here. And also something that, although she is great in dive compositions, also facilitates very well against dive compositions, because you tend to have a lot of dashes and movement and that big personal space, able to buy space for your own team. So for RNG, maybe they go back towards the Jarvan. Xin Zhao also kind of facilitating that dive style, but I'm curious to see what they round out this mid lane with, because Vex kind of a takeaway from that dive from Xiaohu. So I'm curious if we just end up seeing the LeBlanc. Maybe we see something like an Orianna where it's just like, okay, put the ball on towards Xin Zhao or on towards Gnar and facilitate these all in, this big wombo combo style.
Yeah, there is things like Galio as well. I was about to mention it as he popped up, because we've got the rise of the TF being banned, right? And Galio ends up being that kind of second fiddle global mid laner where you can still have that global presence, but you don't necessarily offer the same level of damage threat. So very weak on the magic damage here from RNG.
Yeah, I think that's relatively okay. Oftentimes what we see with Hecarim is...
That's a Sylas top lane.
Okay. So this is actually a counter that was around a little while ago. So the idea basically is that you suck in the early stages against this Gnar, but you basically are able to bring to the forefront what Gnar brings to team fights as well. And it can be a little bit of a struggle, kind of levels 1, 2, 7. We saw this a lot over in the LCK, I believe, was where it kind of really got like rolling. But once you get into like the actual team fights and you've got a couple of levels under your belt, it becomes really difficult for Gnar to try and like push you out. And because you're able to heal up, you're able to trade super effectively, and you offer just as much as Gnar does in team fights. The only caveat to that, I will say though, Hullbreaker now exists as an item. So if Gnar does end up going for the Hullbreaker, this can make it a little bit more of a difficult matchup for Xiaohu in that top.
Yeah, Xiaohu just going to have to try and weather the storm and get to the team fights. But man, I am excited for this track. Look at some of the picks it got coming through. Yeah. That Nautilus Kaisa feels very vintage 2021, right? You've got the Vex in the mid lane, which is always exciting. A Sylas is a counter pick for that top lane. Then we've got this Galio Alistar combo that is so powerful in teamfights to set up for this area on the side of RNG.
Yeah, I really do feel like for RNG, a lot of their pressure is going to be through that mid jungle and then facilitating both sides of the equation on their side lanes. Moving up towards Bin, if you end up with the dive potential is always possible, especially because Gnar, at least in the early stages, has a lot of priority there. Always the opportunity to try and turn on plays on the bot side or even set up for dives, level 6 with this Alistar being able to tank the tower. I think RNG have a lot of tools to try and set themselves up, and it'll be on EDG to try and take the reins away from RNG.
Here we go, onto Summoner's Rift, as the sky is filled with strange bee-based demons.
Unbelievable.
It is, oh no. Gala, oh the hook hits the wolf from Meiko. It's a disaster for RNG that turns into a disaster for EDG, but Viper might just splash for this one. Halo Blades is almost coming off with cooldown. Again, Gala still in trouble. Ming now the target. Is big damage coming out from Viper. And now a fear across the team. Meiko trying to find more. And Xiaohu now the target. EDG just whittling away, but they can't really quite finish anyone off.
I mean, even trading summoner spells all said and done. Scout trying to see if he can spot them, but just backs away at the wrong time. Won't spot them underneath the tower. Full control here for EDG on this bottom side of the map, though. And at least now they'll have a good idea as to where he's starting. Bot lane for RNG will also be late to the lane. So EDG getting a lot of early pressure now in this mid and bot side of the map.
All right, so let's try and figure out how we're going to start this one off, because Wei going with an invade right off of the bat. Bin is going to be here to help him. Xiaohu, he knows it's going on. You can see Jiejie moving over. EDG are going to contest this invade. They don't want to just give this one up. It's going to be a 50-50 smite, but Wei already pushed away on this one. Jiejie can return to the buff. Looks like RNG just forced away here. And EDG do find themselves the advantage.
Brilliant response from EDG. So like the thought process from Wei there was, I have fully lost control of my bot side. Chances are Jiejie is either stealing away my camps on the bot side or is going to start bot, use the mid push and bot push that now EDG has gained to start to invade onto my bottom side, and I just don't have the man pressure to try and help with that. So Wei tries to read that, play up onto the top side of the map, but EDG respond beautifully as Meiko gets a little bit of damage here. Ming actually taking a lot of damage.
A little bit, yeah. It's like 3/4 of his health. This Gala just desperately trying to trade back. Look at this from Xiaohu at level 2, trying to make a play towards the bottom side, but I think realizing it's not quite going to work out. Scout calling that he's abandoned the lane.
And that's the part that now gives a little bit of wiggle room to RNG. Because Scout moved across to try and help out on the invade, Xiaohu now actually gets control of the mid wave where you traditionally were able to. So now Wei going to be able to pick up his full jungle. He will just be late on the clear because he's kind of gone for this invade on the top side and not been able to put the resources where he needs to. But it does unlock Xiaohu nice and early, which is actually giving a lot of space for Gala and Ming to freeze this wave on the bot side and make this lane really uncomfortable now for Viper and Meiko. So both teams reacting really well to the map state, and this is why these two teams are considered some of the best teams that we have in the LPL.
And it feels so exciting straight off the bat. We've not had a single kill, but the amount of like cerebral gameplay we've got coming out from both of these teams is so exciting to watch. Has been doing a good job of just putting pressure down on this top side. You can see already a 10 CS lead in that top lane. Similar lead in the jungle though. Off the back of that level 1 play, Jiejie now with a 2-camp lead in that jungle matchup. Now going for the scuttle crab as Wei goes for his chickens. Does have vision on Wei as he actually moves in. Love to be able to see that, observers, but it's going to be Wei moving towards the Krugs here, and we could have a little tussle between the two junglers. Wei a level up right now. Oh, sorry, Jiejie a level up right now as Wei getting cut down. Still has his flash and needs to use it, but smite onto the Krugs. Found him alive at very least. Xiaohu with the Predator, and a Hex Smash over the wall from Ming, but RNG, they've answered, they've protected their jungler, but they won't find any.
Yeah, Jiejie just getting a little bit of damage down, but with push and that off of that freeze that we talked about for Gala in that bot lane, you're not able to have Viper come across and help him out. They would have tried to play off the fact that you've got the quicker reset for Viper in that bot lane, but just not able to bring the AD carry in means that they back away. But again, a ton of vision established for EDG on this bottom side jungle. They'll be able to track Wei super effectively. And when we said for RNG, a lot of like what they want to do is like play through Wei, play through Xiaohu, unlock this Galio. They're not going to be able to do so. It's top lane.
They could play through Xiaoshang on the top lane. If Jiejie can make this kill happen, Xiaoshang just keeps away, keeps himself safe. And it will be first blood taken by EDG, and very easily done with Bin being so pushed up.
And I'm so glad to see this really strong early game from Jiejie. This is one of the guys when we talk about the early game decision making. The decision maker in skirmish is not quite working out for EDG. A lot of that has kind of been falling on Jiejie's head. This time around though, he's taking that and just going, right, I know exactly what I need to do. Getting great control in the enemy jungle to spot out where Wei is, so then this better skirmisher on the Xin Zhao isn't able to have pressure on the map. And now moving up to kind of fix the top lane matchup, because as we talked about, Sylas not really been able to get a good matchup in the early stages against this Gnar. And Jiejie's just been everywhere, where keeping RNG in check at every step of the way.
And just look at the inventory right now from Bin. And I feel like that's the most Bin purchase you could go with, right? You want to get healing reduction, you could go for the Bramble Vest. That's what quite a lot of top laners would do on the Gnar, but no, he goes for the Executioners. He wants to bully this Sylas. Despite that gank, Bin is not going to change his playstyle up in that top side, and I think rightly so with the matchup that he has. But I'm looking towards the mid lane, Dagda, because we're at level 5 right now. Scout currently level 6. Xiaohu not far off of level 6 himself. And I feel like over the next minute or so, we're going to see these mid laners roaming around the map and trying to make it happen.
The problem for RNG is that Wei is that level behind. Even now, trying to invade to get vision. Like, if he goes on Jiejie may just have the support to turn this around. Wei needs to be careful, but it means in like situations where you end up in skirmishes, that level advantage is going to pay dividends for EDG.
Big window here for Xiaoshang, but Bin turns Mega Gnar. Nice little sidestep. Xiaoshang dodging everything. Very nicely played here by the EDG top laner. Remember, this is the guy replacing Flandre right now. This is the guy that EDG are choosing to have as their mainstay top laner for the time being. And you can see why, because he consistently is performing well in that top side.
And again, like, this is a matchup now that's starting to swing in his favor. So for Xiaoshang, you can see very knowledgeable in this matchup. That's why he decided to take the Sylas, and with that early help from Jiejie, now he's able to get better control. That CS with that lead that Bin had established, now starting to fall away. The Dark Seal, the Doran's Ring as well. These early items helping to make sure that Xiaoshang is going to be in a great spot now in this top lane. And every lane now kind of in a good spot for EDG. You've got the top lane going well. Mid still has good push here for Scout. RNG though, the only lane that they do have control of is this bot side, and that's why they're picking up this dragon.
Yeah, so finding an advantage on the bottom side of the map for the side of RNG, but a small gold lead off the back of that first blood in favor of EDG. There is a small CS lead, as you mentioned, the control in that bottom lane in favor of RNG, and Gala has been able to exploit that slightly, generally speaking, relatively even across the board here. And I'm curious what your take is, Dagda, on when we're likely to see these teams starting to be a bit more proactive. Because, you know, with the Zeri, there's a lot of scaling there. It's not like this EDG composition doesn't scale at all itself. Like, do you anticipate that we'll see scrapping early on for Dragon number 2, for the Heralds that are just spawning onto the map now? Or do you think it'll just go one way?
I definitely think for EDG, playing this game slow is their best bet. Especially, like, looking at Viper's build here, You've got the Cull that came through first, and he's not going for this AP Kaisa that we see a lot of the times. He's just going for the Kraken Slayer or Gale Force. He's going this quick Kaisa. Huge amount of damage against the front line of RNG, but it takes, you know, a while to come online. So you're definitely going to be waiting for this Kaisa to come on. Scout is going to be able to do a lot in the later portion of the game, and you're kind of starting to get yourselves into this mid-game stride with Xiaohu and Scout and Jiejie. So I think EDG will start to become more proactive. I actually think RNG have kind of missed their window. And I wanted to see a huge amount of pressure put towards like the bot side with the dives coming through from Xiaohu, but they haven't really been able to put like too much pressure on the map simply because of the way Jiejie has orchestrated this early game. And they will get this Rift Herald, which certainly can help them in making proactive plays, but I really do feel like RNG are the ones that should be in the driver's seat, and they really aren't in control right now.
And I think part of that is the fact that they have the Xin Zhao as opposed to the Hecarim that they had against Weibo, right? When you think back to this super proactive version of Wei that we saw against Weibo, it was this Hecarim where at level 2 he's diving in the bottom lane and then just sprints all the way to the top lane and pulls a dive off up there as well. And granted, they weren't the cleanest dives I've ever seen in my life, but just trying to make things happen to try to cause chaos. This feels like a much more tempered RNG today, and perhaps it's down to the matchup, perhaps it's down to the pressure of being up against your old nemesis in the LPL, but EDG now, it's their turn to be proactive. Gala spots out Meiko. Jiejie has not been spotted himself just yet, so Gala does need to be cautious. Could be a flash from Meiko to force a fight. Jiejie going to cancel his recall. It could happen. It could still happen. Oh, they're on tenterhooks right now. Channeling the response. Gala moves up towards Ming. Scout's moving over as well. I don't think it's going to happen, though, Dagda.
No, the Scout was spotted in ward. I think they've given the jig up, and Ming and Gala just try to play like... Ew,
Jiejie's still here. He's got his ultimate available. He's just going to charge across the play. Knock up onto Gala. Knock back onto Gala. Knock down onto Gala. Jiejie gets his second kill of the game as Scout aggressed on in the river, but backs away with his life.
I mean, they smelt it. RNG knew there was something astray, but they didn't think that Jiejie would stick around that long. It was like 20 seconds that Jiejie spent in that bottom river, and it means that they end up getting caught out. Also, as you can see in the picture-in-picture, Scout having to burn his flashes. He tried to move down just to cover the Xiaohu roam on that bot lane play, but great job from EDG. And we talked about for EDG, Viper, the man on the mission. Viper, the one with the damage. Viper, the guy who's been stepping up massively well. He's gotten the resources once more to do it, thanks to Jiejie facilitating that bot lane play.
But RNG want a bit of revenge. They've got a ward in the tri-brush. Meiko's sweeper about to run out as Ming is in the brush. They're going to go straight onto Meiko. They're just going to blast damage all the way across. Wei trying to finish this kill off and will be able to do so. So both junglers now, the only players in the game with kills on the board.
Yeah, I mean, nice answer back from RNG there, but EDG trying to cross-map it. Bin very alone under terror, and Xiaohu has stolen that ultimate.
Bin's about to do Mega. Xiaohu whiffs the ult as well. Bin surely wins this. Might be able to 2v1 as he ults them against the wall. And in comes Xiaohu with the knock-up. Jiejie taken down. A shutdown for Xiaohu. And in the meantime, Shelly gets a charge. It's Fizz Tower with a counterplay on the top lane. It's beautiful for RNG.
Yeah, Xiaohu with the not-so-Xiao mistake there. That was a huge error missing out on that ultimate. And now RNG get the answer for the play on top from EDG. They're now getting the response on that bot side. And this is exactly what we said with RNG. You make one misstep, they will punish you so hard. And we just saw it there. That gold lead that EDG been holding on to all game now swings in RNG's favor.
Absolutely brutalized here. And at the end of the day, it's a really tough look for EDG because they had control for the vast majority of this early game, despite being the ones that realistically don't have that much compositional presence in that early game with this crit Kaisa that's going to take a bit longer to come online, but managing to try and push the envelope from this top side, just get punished for.
And Jiejie just goes down for Xiaohu's mistake here with the ult missing, the Gnar bar nearly there for Bin. I mean, that was a risky dive at best, and the fact that it went wrong from the get-go just means that it's going to be disastrous across the board. So RNG turning that play around. EDG will get the dragon just off of the reset that RNG had, but for RNG now, you're in a great spot. Terror down in bot. Gala putting pressure on this top side. Vision control starting to be established on this top side for RNG as well. So Gala and Ming can continue to play aggressive in this lane. And full push in mid for Xiaohu. He's starting to roam up towards this top side, but wait, Xiaoshang's in a ton of trouble.
Xiaoshang be in serious trouble here as Viper's starting to move over. Jiejie is here as well, but Xiaoshang is going to be okay. We'll have to wait and see as Xiaohu steps on forward. Jiejie is here. We're just going to have a team fight. It's not even an objective here. We just want to scrap right now. Xiaoshang has an Alistar ult as well. This Viper will survive the bit of damage coming out from Xiaohu. And that's the issue of having this Galio, right? Any other mid laner, Viper's dead there. Galio just doesn't have the damage.
Yeah, Wei getting that Crescent Guard to keep himself safe, and I can understand EDG wanting to pull trigger on that. Bin could TP in, but because it's going to be just Preston 14 minutes now, would have had to go all the way back to his own tower, so EDG would have had the numbers advantage for quite a while. As well, Xiaoshang stealing that Unbreakable Will means he's such a tanky frontline, incredibly difficult to deal with the Sylas that's got that Alistar ult, but they're not able to find the engage. RNG do a really good job of disengaging, and now the problems are starting to come through for EDG. Look at the first item for Bin. We already talked about it, that whole breaker picked up. Now Xiaoshang no longer has control in this side lane, and you've got to try and worry about things like the dragon in 3 minutes. You've got, you know, another rift tower that's going to be up. If you try and contest that, Bin is just going to do so much damage to this bot side. He may not need to take the inhibitor just yet, but taking a turret will put as many issues in EDG's book as possible.
And it feels like things are starting to really build in favor of RNG. Xiaoshang makes an attempt there. Jiejie moving over to the bottom side as well. Scout's here. Meiko is here too. This is a 4-man squad down in the bottom lane. It's 2.5 minutes until the Drake comes up. They want a tower for themselves. I'm not sure that they're going to be able to find it. While Viper, in the meantime, still just chilling up. Oh, sorry, Gala is just chilling up in that top side, clearing things away. Wei getting a Herald, and EDG. This doesn't feel like that great of a macro play, right? Committing 4 people to the bottom side when there isn't a Drake. You'll get a tier 1, but you're sacrificing a Herald and a tier 2 for it. I mean, that just feels like a blunder to me, Dagda.
I just don't feel like EDG can take fights right now. Like, one of the things that we talked about for RNG is like their ability to take really good team fights with dive. But you've also got a pretty heavy dive composition on EDG's side. And when a Galio is in that mix, Galio can do so well at disrupting a lot of what EDG have to play with. And just the champions in general on RNG's side come online right now. Like Zeri with that Triforce and the Zeal, super strong. Xiaohu been able to lock people up. Wei with Gore Drinker is going to be huge. And, I mean, Hullbreaker's just silly. So when you look across at EDG, you're still waiting on a lot of these big power spikes, especially for Viper on this Kaisa. Kraken Slayer is nice, but not really enough to kind of write home about. So for RNG, they are definitely in control. EDG aware that they don't want to, like, blow this game open by taking a poor fight. And I think that shows, I mean, if we're looking at, like, the LPL TV show, character development for EDG. Because, realistically, that's what I wanted to see.
Again, Ming has found a way in onto Scout here. Looks like RNG just trying to find control of the river right now before that Drake comes up in a minute's time. But Scout and Jiejie are moving in themselves. They don't want to give this one up just yet. And so, you know, we're talking about scaling. We're talking about all of the potential advantages that RNG have right now. But we do have mythics coming through for EDG, right? We've got this Kaisa with a Kraken Slayer. Close to getting caught out here. Jiejie just gonna hard commit to the play, denying this Blasco. No, he's not. Ming actually headbutts him away, gets the knock up onto Jiejie, and now maybe a turnaround for the side of RNG. Gala's just going to burn through Jiejie. It's Xiaohu to grab the kill, and now flying down from the heavens with a knock up. It's 2 for RNG. Xiaoshang into the backline, but it doesn't matter because Wei has chased Viper off, and it means Sylas is alone. Scout has to flash over the wall as Wei tries to chase, but misses the W. But that's a 4-kill sweep for RNG.
EDG were just trying to find the pick. They didn't want to find the team fight. But when Ming outplays Jiejie, RNG are perfectly able to collapse. Dragon, number 2 for RNG. Tower is going across to RNG. This is the moment that RNG needed to blow open this game.
And there's a little bit of information that I neglected to mention. We were talking about the history between the two teams. How EDG's won the most recent series. Well, RNG, they won the 4 series before that one. RNG have been the kings of this matchup, and they are showing it so far in Game 1.
Yeah, really, really good job here from Ming and RNG. Ming just stays alive so long here. that EDG are overextended. You can see with Bin, that brilliant TP ward there means that he's able to completely cut off EDG from the rest of the fight. Xiaoshang tries to recover by flashing in, but Wei was already in towards Viper and Scout. They're completely zoned out of this equation, and Gala, because Zeri's able to hop over walls, quickly follows up and wins. So for RNG now, they're in a phenomenal spot.
And I want to point something that I think is pretty important out, right? That out of the last 15 times these two teams have faced up against each other, RNG has won 12. There have only been 3 series wins for EDG. 15 times these two teams have faced off. And that means RNG, the fact that they have this head-to-head has all come in the last few years, right? It's all been recent. EDG used to be the kings of this matchup. It used to be so heavily in their favor. But RNG over the last few years have been dominant. And it was only in the World Championship where it really came alive for EDG. And now today, it feels like RNG back on top. 4K is their gold lead. And this is an EDG that has been struggling recently when it comes to the team fight. So when it comes to some of the decision making, this is what we're talking about before this series started today, is that occasionally we feel like EDG's decision making just isn't working out. And that kind of engage there where they're going so deep, where Jiejie's diving over the wall to try and get onto Ming. That's the kind of decision making we're talking about.
And it hurts for EDG fans because this was the world champion. 6 LPL championships for EDG. You think they're back, but now RNG putting them under pressure. And once more, EDG on the back foot. And for world champions, we wanted more, but they're not able to do so. EDG, though, ceding ground here to RNG as that vision gets established on the top side for Baron. Buy space for Xiaohu to push in this bot wave, for Bin to push in top. Like, the team fight in the 1-3-1 is so strong for RNG right now.
EDG, they may be the world champions, but Xiaohu is the emperor, and it's spring, you know?
It's true.
It's one of those situations. If we're talking titles, Xiaohu's trumping every single time in spring. Morella Nomicon actually finished up for him now. That'll be his 2nd item completed. And I think we have to mention quickly that RNG is one of those teams in the LPL that when they find the lead in the early game, they are not afraid to pull that trigger, push that accelerator, and really make that known to their opponents, right? Currently, they're 4,000 gold up. They've got 2 out of the 3 Drakes in the game so far. That next one will be coming up in 2 minutes, but I wouldn't be too surprised with Gala having 2.5 items already if RNG just try and find a creative way to fight.
And as you're saying, for RNG, these are a team that are very good at pushing the envelope with their lead. And again, that is obviously with Gala being as fed as all hell right now, but it is a lot of how they kind of establish vision control in the area that they want to like move into. You see all that vision on the top side. You're very aware that Baron is up and available. And if you are then investing wards as EDG into this top side jungle, well, RNG can then just cross map. You got a minute and a half until the dragon. Cool. We've now started to establish vision in your bot side jungle as well. And it becomes this really difficult move for EDG because RNG can go towards Baron at any time they want, but you've also got to keep control over this dragon in the next few minutes. And when you've got as many items as RNG do, this is a really difficult team fight for EDG to take if they don't have that vision.
I will say, though, for EDG, at least Viper now on the 2 items. The Kraken Slayer Phantom Dancer, it's an incredibly strong combo of items that just spike individually. Very big. And once he finishes off an Infinity Edge as well as a 3rd item, Viper will be absolutely terrifying to deal with. We'll be able to one-shot people in the back line. Scout as well with 2 items. It does feel like EDG are starting to get to a point where the carries, if a fight does happen and they're in the right position, I mean, we talked about Viper earlier. There's always that little thing at the back of your head that tells you that maybe, just maybe, Viper could just make it happen.
He's up a hill, though. Like, when you look at the 3rd item, the Titanic Hydra bed to complete it for Gala, I mean, you've got so much lockdown that's here and available as well. Xiaohu being able to find those opportunities to zone Viper away, even Bin as well. It actually is really difficult for EDG to try and operate in these team fights. So for Viper, he's going to have to pull out some of that serious magic if he hopes to try and carry this. Has Scout paired with them, though. I mean, 2 items for this. Vex is not anything to kind of sniff at. And if Gala ever gets caught out, that is so much of RNG's damage down. So keep your eyes to see if Scout, if Jiejie, maybe Xiaoshang can find that window of opportunity to play on towards Gala.
Drake started here by RNG. This would be their third, but EDG want to fight for it. It doesn't matter though, as Meiko forced over the wall, and it's EDG that are just getting eradicated one by one. They're discoordinated. They're not going in together. They're separated into pairs, and RNG want to chase them down. Meiko, no flash because he was caught at the start of the fight, and RNG just complete control from start to end this game.
That was a terrible engage from Jiejie. Completely separated from the team, not able to get onto anyone of any note on RNG's side. They get Dragon. Well, they don't even want Dragon. They're just going to go over towards this Baron. How do you try and contest this as EDG?
You could have maybe tried to go for both here for RNG, honestly. Yeah. Maybe just go for Drake and then go for the Baron. Now I'll get a full go with this Drake, which does mean they will not make it to Soul Point here. This will be 2 Drakes apiece. EDG will grab that as a consolation prize. But a consolation prize is all that it is. A second Drake here and a bounty, but it's traded for a Baron at 24 minutes for RNG, who are well and truly in control of everything. Gala sliding across the 5 stars.
Yeah, I mean, look how far Jiejie is before anyone in EDG can follow up. And like, this is something that we've seen a lot from Jiejie, and why we kind of said, look, a lot of the issues that we've seen on EDG tend to fall on Jiejie. It's moments like this where he's just going that bit too far forward ahead of the rest of the team. Communication isn't there, and now EDG suffering as a result, especially when you look at RNG. You know, Baroned up here with great side lane pressure, hole breaker for Bin. This is a nightmare of a defense here for EDG, as RNG just run through mid. They've already got the wave in top. They could crack open the base right now.
They certainly could. They're going to try and do exactly that in the mid lane. And, you know, when this team lost to RA, people started to worry, but apparently that was just a blip on the radar. Gala will be knocked up. There's the fear coming out from Jiejie as well. Gala just jumps over the wall. Wade trying to tank up a scout, and Viper is separated from the team. Gala's going for a 2v1 on the backline as the rest of his team in a 2v3. Xiaohu taunted and finished by Gala. Shadow Surge goes a million miles wide. And RNG, they've actually lost the fight in terms of numbers, but it doesn't seem to matter at all as they start to take this base apart brick by brick.
I mean, mid inhibitor and tower down, top tower down as well, and this is just a great push from RNG. As he said, losing the numbers fight, but picking up the map state. And that's the more important thing here for RNG. And now EDG just falling further and further behind. And the biggest problem for EDG is that they are playing this kind of dive composition. So they have to go forward to try and find these fights. But when you're so far behind, that can be incredibly difficult. Jiejie tries to go back into the actual forefront of the fight, but Viper had already launched himself in the back to try and kill Gala, so meant that Viper's completely zoned out. Gala is so large and in charge right now that there's just nothing that the backline for EDG can answer with.
When you look at the replay, Scout and Viper both dive onto Gala at the start of the fight, and he just doesn't take any damage.
Oh.
They just don't manage to do anything to him, and now he's got 3 items plus a QSS. So worst case scenario, he even has that cleanse alongside his heal, although his heal will be on cooldown for the time being. But RNG with that mid inhib now, with Baron still for another 30 seconds, should be able to push for a little bit more in the base. And we're getting to desperation o'clock here for EDG as they start to lose everything before their eyes. Meiko is going to go in, but he just isn't tanky enough onto the backline. Gala's in trouble. Can this be the fight for EDG? They found one. Viper low though, and EDG, they've dived so hard that they're on the wrong side of the play. Bin is trying to chase this one down. An advanced Hex Flash comes through from Xiaohu. That's a callback and a half as he tries to head them off. Viper will be taunted and taken down. Scout with a Shadow Surge to get himself on the right side of the play. Beautifully done, but Ming has abilities too, and it means that Bin grabs a double kill.
RNG with the dark technologies will find the teamfight win against EDG, even with Gala going down. With only 2 members of EDG left, it's more of their base exposed. And with that, RNG would take a second inhibitor. All 3 inhibitors exposed. Dragon in a minute and a half. And that was that desperation play that you called for, Munch. It just didn't pay off.
It certainly did not. They did manage to find Gala. At least this time they did get Gala, but at what cost, Dagda? At what cost?
Yeah, and I'm kind of surprised to see how long Gala took to use that QSS. I was meant to point it out before the fight kicked off that he'd actually picked up the QSS, which was going to make it harder to make this exact play, but just worried about how many fears and how many different things he was going to have to dodge, pulls the trigger on the QSS incredibly late, but it doesn't matter. RNG are just so far ahead at this stage. Bin has a ton of damage. You've got Wei who's able to work his way through the team fights as well. And EDG dump everything on the AD carry and have nothing left for the rest of RNG.
The amount of damage that Gala is pulling out in these fights, you can tell that there's a Gnar and a Galio on the team, right? Because Gala, he stood in that socialite hex. He's got the double buffs going on here. He is annihilating everyone that comes near him. If he can survive long enough. This time he didn't, but the thing is, he's so tanky. With just the way that Zeri is as an AD carry, you do massive damage, but you're still incredibly tough to deal with because of the Titanic Hydra that you build. It feels like it takes them so long. It takes everything the EDG have just to kill Gala. And, I mean, there's not actually that much damage across the rest of the team from RNG, but there's enough to win the fight.
I will say, like, Bin does hurt. I mean, Triforce, Hullbreaker, given 117% efficiency in team fights is kind of nuts. You've got the team at here. Yeah, this, like, he really does hurt. The only thing I will say, though, is, yeah, I mean, the majority of the damage is Gala, so it's still good if EDG can pick Gala off at the start. You just got to make sure you have enough left in the tank for the rest of RNG. EDG, though, trying to cross-map at the moment. Dragon goes the way of RNG, that's the third one. EDG have seen too many times what happens when they try to take these team fights, so they're just trying to get some desperate gold back into their pocket, see if they can claim some of these bounties. Free items kind of across the board now for EDG. When you're looking at fourth items coming across here, maybe fifth items if you're looking at Bin, EDG still very far behind.
RNG now searching for picks in the jungle as well, but EDG won't fall prey to it just yet. Dagda, I want to revisit something we talked about earlier. EDG have been struggling in team fights, and they've gone for this somewhat scaling composition on their side. At what point does that cash in? Are they going to be able to fight? Hang on, maybe we've just got to fight now. Okay, are we going to be able to find a late game scenario where EDG does come back into this one, or are you feeling like it's just a bit?
It feels like it has to be a massive Gnar ult from Xiaohu. And yes, I said that correct. Xiaohu needs to find that really big moment to try and win this back. Enable Viper to try and fight this front to back, but RNG aren't really giving them that opportunity. They're flanking from too many different angles. Scout now with a good position maybe to get on towards Gala.
Engage from Ming, but he kind of whiffs it. Meiko getting away. I'm not sure if he whiffed it or if that was an anchor. Power from Meiko. Hard to see sometimes, but either way, it's going to be EDG walking away, and RNG can just rinse and repeat this, right? They still have vision control of the whole area. They should be able to play that forward chicken pit or not. They don't like clearing vision. Either way, though, RNG with vision control force EDG to face check once more. Baron started up here. EDG know about it, but RNG, they actually just want the fight. They don't really want to commit to a 50-50 Baron if they can help it. Ming thinking about going in. Xiaohu steals away that unbreakable will. It's so valuable on the Sylas.
I agree, but I still think that the higher value ult is Bin's ult. Like, getting this massive AoE wombo would be the best way for EDG to try and burst out RNG, but don't have that option now as Xiaohu stepping forward.
Goes in, and Xiaohu trying to be the front line. In comes Xiaohu. It's a knock-up only onto one, though, and in the meantime, Xiaohu is practically invincible. This is the front to back that May EDG needed all along. Bin in Mega Gnar, but it's starting to run out, and perhaps a re-engage could come through from EDG. Trying to make it happen, but Wei knocks everyone away. Fear across the team, out from Jiejie. He may have sacrificed life, but sprints away from the fight. Scout trying to re-engage. There's a Shadow Surge, but it goes wide. It's one pick for EDG, and finally some semblance of control. RNG don't want to give up just yet, though. Gala's still alive. A recall from Xiaohu, and he does have TP available here, but it looks like EDG will back away in time. Or will they? TP in the mid lane. I think this is going to be extended, Dagda. I'm sorry, I've got to cut you off on that one.
No, go for it, go for it.
He's making the flank happen, but the fear comes out from Scout. Nicely done, but Xiaohu caught on the top side of the play. And now Xiaohu trying to chase him down. Everfrost goes wide, but the taunt will connect. There's a knock-up. There's a kill for Bin as Viper fleeing into the base, and Gala will not let him. Gala, the man of the hour at MSI, and he wants to be just that in spring once more. Bin with another double kill, 7, 1, and 4 on this. Gnar, he's had a game and a half here as RNG start this series in style, demolishing EDG from the word go without a moment's hesitation.
RNG finding such good success in this mid game will fight back EDG for game number 1. And so many times we talked about how important these team fights were going to be, how important this early to mid game was going to be in this series, and RNG showing that they have a much better grasp on how they want to orchestrate that.
RNG with an amazing start to the series, and you know, I was coming into this one thinking RNG off the back of beating Weibo, probably the favorite right now with some of the issues that we've been seeing from EDG, but I didn't think it was that black and white, you know. I didn't think it was just going to be the fact of RNG straight from the bat, reading every play EDG tries to make, winning both sides of the map simultaneously, and then just snowballing to a win. I have to say, Dagda, I'm kind of disappointed by game number 1. I thought EDG were going to give us a banger. This is RNG EDG, but so far, it doesn't feel like it.
And it's kind of exemplified everything that we highlighted at the start of the day, right? Why EDG have been struggling, why they haven't been able to take wins against the top teams in the LPL. You know, poor decision making on how they want to skirmish, poor team fighting, poor coordination. We're starting to see all that exemplified, and it's heartbreaking because you look at that fight at Baron and you're starting to see glimpses of EDG of old. You know, finding those team fights despite the gold lead. That was something that EDG in 2021 were able to do so well, but not this time. RNG, they get the TP back in and they close out the game, and I mean, the Goldcraft tells the story here. 1 or 2 mistakes from EDG, despite the fact they had that really strong early game, it meant nothing when we got to the mid game. The decision making from RNG too strong, and EDG fall.
And Viper actually topping the damage table, which I have to say I'm massively surprised by. I was expecting that to be Bin with the scoreline at the end, and maybe Gala with how these team fights have been going. But Viper doing as much as he possibly could. To be said, I think Jiejie, a couple of question marks, and Meiko too, both of them occasionally getting caught out of position, going too deep in some of these fights. It's the gang just not having the follow-up. And the thing is, this somewhat arguably dive composition coming out from EDG felt like in theory would be able to do stuff, but you're against an Alistar and a Galio, right? Like, it feels so difficult to ever actually deal with Gala in the fights. We only saw them succeed one time.
Yeah, and I was kind of, I'm playing with the thought in my mind about whether I like the build from Viper or if I would have preferred to see the AP build. Because one of the big benefits of the AP build is that you do get a ton of poke off of the Void missiles. And I think when you're looking at this very heavy dive composition coming through from, a composition that's both paired up for dive, but also pretty good at anti-dive that came through from RNG. I think going for the poke could have worked out really well, especially when you've already got Scout there who can lend to kind of a lot of long range damage too. And maybe you try to play these team fights a little bit slower. It just felt like, honestly, Jiejie not really comfortable going to be that big engage to afford these dives. Some of the front to back team fights working out, but they really just felt like they weren't in control of when it got to the mid game.
Yeah, not quite working out for them in game number 1, but we'll see if EDG can go back to the drawing board and fix things up. Really intelligent draft from RNG in game 1 and a dominant win to boot. We'll see if they can keep that rolling right after the break.